Welcome to another unboxing video brought to you by Align and Enterprise Hobby, distributor of Align products for North America. This is Gail Align. I'm very excited to be here and have the opportunity to open the Dominator T-Rex 700XN. This is a completely redesigned nitro helicopter from the previous versions that Align has released. Alan Szabo Jr. Spent probably a good 40 days in Taiwan working on this helicopter with the engineers at Align, along with Kenny Ko, who lives in Taiwan. So Kenny was there quite a bit at the factory. I was fortunate enough to spend about 15 days working on it. So I'm just excited to see the final product in the box. There are two models. There's the combo and then the basic version. I have in front of me the combo version, which you'll see what's incorporated inside the package. And as listed, it's the Dominator 700XN combo. The part number is RH70N11XT. And the other model, which does not include servos, is RH70N12XT. Let's go ahead and cut this open and see what's inside. As Align always does with their kits, everything is in individual bags and then incorporated into boxes where things should go. You have the main box in the back, which holds the torque tubes, blades, and yes, they're yellow as far as main blades, and a few of the other parts that are long. You have the canopy, the manual, and other items which are located in this box. You have the electronic devices, which are your servos, in one starter, remote glow plug, and also electronic delivery system for powering the helicopter. And then you have all the main rotor head parts, which is located in this box. Each one of them are numbered, and they will match up with the manual so that it'll make for easy assembly, and we'll discuss that when we put together the build video. So I'm going to go ahead and set this box aside, and then we'll pull out each box individually. I've removed the canopy box. What I want to do is go ahead and take out the manual, and then we'll open the contents of the box in detail in a little bit. Let's get the manual out. And then we'll set this box aside. So this is the updated manual. There are some changes to the wording. Hopefully it's a little bit better. If you do have any suggestions, feel free to send them to me. Since I did a little bit of the work, there is an electronic version available, and that will have even updated corrections in the manual as I build the helicopter and get feedback from people that maybe I missed something. Then we're trying to go ahead and correct those as quickly as possible. And the link for the manual download can be found at enterprisehobby.com under the manual section, and it's color and updated, and you'll see some of the pages flip up in the right hand corner right here in front. So we'll take a look right now. The first page is the 700XN, so as you can see it's in color. Let's go ahead and take a look at the main rotor headset. FLH16. Go ahead and cut that open. So we have a small bag, which is 700 FLH 16A. We have the arms from the blade grips to the swash. They are counter rotating. As you can see, the little slot is offset, and therefore once it's placed together, that is going to point, that little slot will be towards the sky, and the greater amount of meat here will be towards the ground, so the actual link will, maybe we'll be able to see it on the camera, will sit like this on the helicopter. We also have the head bolts. So you have the two bolts which are going to hold the actual head onto the main shaft, retaining nuts, and the washers which are used in this case, one for each one of the bolts. These bolts do not need Loctite as you're going through the assembly, so be careful of that. Reason is there's a nylon little insert will keep the bolt from backing off. So those are the items inside of 700 FLH16A. Now we have the actual main grip and head block. The 760 3D main blade grip arms are included with the 700XN kit. The purpose of these new arms is to maintain 90 degrees from zero pitch, either through the positive or the negative range. And that way the arms themselves are maintaining the 90 degrees through the pitch range cycle. To improve performance, all the screws and ball links on the Align helicopter are assembled in the factory as far as just finger tight. They're not forced together and everything is loose. Therefore, when you are doing the build, you need to remove every single screw other than a couple places, but you need to check those. So we'll discuss that in the build video, but these are never forced on in any way because people just screw them in with their fingers. And that way we know that everything's in the correct place, and by disassembling it and using a locking compound on the threads, you'll assemble the helicopter properly and it'll stay together for you. So that's the main head, which comes in bag 700 FLH16. Okay, next we'll look at bag number 700 FLH13. This is the swash and main shaft. So we have the main shaft and 4 spacers. The swash plate, each one of the balls is just finger tight, so you can unscrew them very easily. There's nothing forced together. Also be very cautious that when you take it out of the bag that you look for the different items. We'll go ahead and move this up for the camera. There we have the swash. And we'll go ahead and let you look at the back side. That's the swash and main shaft. Next, let's go ahead and take a look at parts bag number 700 NB20, the front electronics holder. And parts bag 700 NB20A. These parts came out of bag 700 NB20A. You have the 4 canopy mounting posts / standoffs. So you have the canopy mounting post, the longer ones that go in towards the rear of the helicopter, and then the front shorter ones which are near the front. and then the standoffs, which have rubber piece fits right on them, and that keeps the canopy away from the actual frame itself. We also have the mount that is used for the sensor, magnet sensor that's going to attach to the clutch bell or just sit above the clutch bell. So this is the piece that is going to allow the screws to tighten the actual sensor to the frame itself, with a couple mounting screws, and then the smaller screws are for different places in the helicopter and where plastic is used because they're self-tapping threads. We have the 4 canopy mounts, 4 little metal grommet washers for style, and then also the 4 posts, because it is a 2-frame construction. Those are the standoffs for the secondary outer frame. And then we have the actual electronics mounting block where you can tuck your electronics. There's a nice place here, large enough for the Beast Plus or any other of the gyros, which are similar in size, which is pretty much everything on the market now that's new. Then you can incorporate in the side pockets some of your other electronic items. And as you can see, there's plenty of space for the wiring is allowed to be able to come through in these different directions or slots. Your battery will mount here on top, and there's plenty of open locations to be able to put together your straps to hold your receiver pack in place, and the kit does come with those straps. Okay, we're going to open up bag number 700 NB18, and as you can see, it includes the engine fan cover. It's a 2-piece module, pretty standard in the lines. You have the retaining bolts that hold everything together. The screws go through the frame and into this piece here to keep it in the frame. And the fan itself is going to sit in this location to generate airflow. Basically, it sits this way in the helicopter. The face of the helicopter is towards the top of the screen, and the fan itself generates airflow and pushes it down over the front onto the actual nitro motor. We've got that piece. And then we have the part which is in 700 NB15, which is the motor mount. Bottom of the motor mount is here because that's the bottom plate it's going to mount on. It connects to the frame again in this direction. The motor is going to mount on the front here. This is for the side bolt. This is a heat dissipation. That's why it's all one piece. A little more sturdy, and also gives you frame support. We have bag 700 NB 18A. And in bag 700 NB18A, you have different screws that are going to attach the frame and the other parts. Some of the other parts, self-tapping screws, and also the retaining washer collars, spacers that go on the outside of the frame before they open up bag number 700 NB19. And this is what everybody's been looking at or curious about. All right, so we have the fan. We have the 700XN drive gear assembly. These already have a little bit of grease on them. I will open this 700XN drive gear assembly in just a little bit. You will not hear any noise during flight, but Align's done a couple changes, and I will show you those changes. So go ahead and take off the little cap here. This will allow me to remove the shaft. And I don't know if you can see or not, but we're gonna, hopefully you can. The set screw is gonna set in this little car cutout right here. And so I'll hold it up there and hopefully I can hold it still enough. And the carve out itself is flat. It's no longer concaved. And that should aid in the actual retaining nut or set screw, once it's screwed in, is resting up against a flatter surface, and therefore should bite a little bit better and not allow this piece to move or slip as it has in the past. So Align made that change. The other item is you have the clutch, and now we have the new clutch bell. And the clutch bell is a steel liner. It's solid one piece. It's performed very well. It doesn't really change anything. It doesn't get hot. There's not a lot of slippage. We've tested all that. So it's a very nice feature. It was one of the things that several of you out there approached and asked for, a better tolerance or less of a tolerance between the clutch, and that way there's no slippage and there's play, and you can see that everything goes together fairly well, and the spacing is nice. These gears, there's 3 of them, and as the picture over to the right shows you, there's spacers. The gears themselves are not going to make or provide any additional noise. You really can't hear them. So Align felt it was a good idea, and we did too, to put in a gear transition because it was a more efficient way of moving energy than a belt, which has a little bit of drag. And a nitro performs better with the gear transition than it does with a belt transition, because the belt is going to remove a little bit of the power of the motor, but not a lot. So we just felt the gear transition will work better. So this that's the big hot topic that everybody's talking about. Performs great, is a very efficient way to move the motor forward and allow the helicopter to balance. Previous Align helicopter, the reason the servos were so far forward using the push-pull rods was due to the fact that way the helicopter would balance on the main shaft and allow it to perform better in the air. So that's what's in bag 700N B18, and I hope everybody's got a good look at that. I'm going to go ahead and place everything back together here. Bag number 70H-T17. And bag number 700N T17. Okay, in bag, as I said, 700N T17. You have 4 standoffs for separate the lower frame. Some retaining / spacers, washers, 4 nuts, several frame housing screws. These are pretty much the standard ones that you always see inside the kit for the nitros. Usually these hold on the rear tail box. The different associated screws for the frame. You got 4 longer ones and some smaller ones here, and then this is the one that's gonna retain the boom. These 4 nuts end up fitting in these slots in this location, and they are hexed to fit the actual nut. Short screws that go through. These screws are actually used to hold the tail boom mount in place. And we'll go ahead and open this up and take a look inside. You have to be careful when you're doing this so that you don't throw all the parts. You have to work from different directions. And here we have inside. And this is a 22 tooth gear. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the 700 NB21. These are the main gears. You gotta be careful when you open up the bag so you don't lose any of the parts. This was loose. The anti-rotation gear is 104 tooth. You might be able to see it. And the main gear itself is 107 tooth. Bag number 700 MB16. Just gonna dump everything out. You need to be careful of it. You have the anti-rotation bracket, which has the new Delron insert. Another set of spacers for the frame, cross supports, carbon fiber mounting bracket for the tail servo, bearing block, main shaft, third bearing block, four mounting brackets, one for the aileron and one for the pitch servo, or the left and right servo. And then the last bag are all the bottom plate mounting pieces. So you have, I'm going to put them right there, for the bottom half of the frame, which attaches and holds everything together. You end up with two in the rear, middle, two rear, two middle, two front. And I could be in the wrong order. I haven't looked at the manual. I just laid them out that way. The last bag is a bag is 700 NT. Go ahead and cut this open for you. In bag number 700 HT15, we have the aligned tail blades. These are the 106s. And as you can see, they come in a separate little pack as far as outside wrapping. Next we have bag 700 HT6A, And these are the items required for the actual torque tube and the tail push rod. So you have the two ball links for the tail push rod, the screw which is used for the push rod, and two of the rubber grommets which actually go on the torque tube. The torque tube, as you'll see later on, has the actual bearings already on them. So those are the items in bag number 700 HT6A. This is bag number 700 HT13. You have the tail fin, vertical fin, and another bag which is 700 NT19, and this is the vertical boom support. So this is going to hold the vertical fin on the boom and also the boom support rods. So, and if the front of the helicopter is facing the top of the screen, this item sits on the helicopter in this way. The actual bolts go closer to the front of the helicopter, and you can see you have the little red retaining washers for the vertical fin. So the vertical fin will fit onto the unit in this nature. Let's go ahead and open up 700 NT8. And this is the whole entire tail assembly housing. Go ahead and zoom in and let's take a look at that. Flip it over. This new tail assembly has larger tail blade grips, uses a larger screw to hold in the thrust bearings. Does have the replaceable arm. There's the whole tail. I'm going to move that back and forth. That concludes all the items inside of main rotor headset. Box number 173026022. So go ahead and put all these items back in. Let's move to the electronics device box. And since this is a combo kit, you've purchased it with the aligned servos and a couple other items. So we have two bags. Actually three. Everything's bubble wrapped. So go ahead and open up this. The wrap box first. So you receive three cyclic arms. They're the aluminum ones by Align. So you receive 4 bags of servo horns. You get a star, a couple stars, the rubber grommets, the actual screw that holds the servo arm in place, and 4 brass eyelets. You have to use these brass eyelets when you assemble the helicopter. A lot of people don't, and then they were over tightening their screws, but they're actually called for in the directions. The combo kit includes 3 DS820M HV servos for the cyclic, and at 7.4 volts, the response time is 0.06 seconds, and at 8.4 volts, the response time is 0.055. Put it right here. Included is one DS825M HV servo for the tail, and at 7.4 volts, the speed is 0.03 seconds, while operating at 8.4 volts, the speed is 0.02 seconds. So these are super fast servos, and the DS820M and DS825M were released with the 700X, and both those servos are included in the 760, 700X, 550X super combo kits. The servos have been out in the market for some time, and they've worked very well. And you can always tell with the line, the red are cyclic, the black are tail, and again, the speed and specs will be up on the right-hand side of the screen. There's one more bag. This is the Align RCE B6TX 2-in-1. What it allows you to do is, one, it's HV, and it works really nice. This sits on the side. There will be a set of lights that display, which show you the voltage in your battery, which is good. You have an on-off switch, and then you have a button here for remote to glow. So there's no really need to buy another unit. This will fit inside the plastic front electronic component housing piece, and it's a real nice setup. Then the last bag will be the throttle servo that comes with the kit. You receive one DS530, and that's your throttle servo. It also comes with a separate bag, which has a little bit of different parts in it. Let's go ahead and take a look. For the DS530, you receive round grommets rather than square. All right, let's go ahead and gather up all the electronics. It's pretty clear. Very nice set of electronics. And take a look at the main blades and the torque tube. Yes, they're going to be yellow. So in the bag is the carbon fiber mat tail boom by Align. You have the 2 boom braces, and you can see that it's much thicker in diameter. The OD is greater, and these plastic pieces are much sturdier or larger. So you have 2 of those. You have the tail push rod, which has the floating metal. This does get C8 onto here. Some people don't do that and they think the rod's supposed to go inside, but that just wears the carbon out. Then we have the torque tube, and as you can see, the bearings are already on the torque tube. You just have to position them in the right place and adhere them to the torque tube themselves. Those are the 3 pieces. Those are the tail boom pieces. Received 2 reflective stickers, and this is bag 700 HH12. Come in a protective sleeve. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the bag. And with any of the line of blades, they are etched with a number so that these numbers have to match, because that's how the factory produces them with the balancing the process. I was very fortunate to see how the blades are made, and there's a lot that goes into the blades themselves as far as the production, but each one is weighted, balanced, so they're within a certain weight range, then they're within a CG, and they're matched up accordingly, then put together and serial numbered so that the blades match. These blades are designed and weighted for a nitro helicopter, so the weight on them is much less than what a flybarless electric helicopter blade would weigh, and I want to say they're 180 grams. They are lighter, and that will improve the performance of the helicopter in flight. Okay, the last box that we have is a Canopy Box, which is 173026022. And we're gonna go ahead and open up that. Line provides you with a nice calendar. I'm gonna go ahead and move the box to the side so we can pull the items out and put them up on the bench. In the box, you get a line calendar for 2018. In this box is bag number 70NB2. So you have the fuel tank, set of fuel tubing, bag number 700NB2A has all the fuel items. You have a smaller set of tubing for the clunk. Comes with this clunk, the Align fuel filter, which fuel comes from the tank through and goes into the helicopter, and then it allows you to be able to fill. You have 1 gasket and 1 plug, 2 grommets if you're going to feed the fuel line through the actual frame itself. The fuel line will go into it, not this one, but it's this piece here, so let's do it right. It's going to go in and go through. That way the fuel line is not bumping up against the carbon fiber frame. This is used in the plug for the tank. And then you have fuel stops, and so that you can, if you've never seen these, because a lot of people haven't, goes on to the fuel line in this nature, and then you're able to basically just pull this and it pinches off the fuel line. If you're using it on fueling, then you can plug in the actual open end of the line and that plugs it off. So those are all the items that are included in a bag 700 NB2. Let's go ahead and put this stuff away. Next in the box is the aligning towel, same as the one that's on the bench. Bag number 700 HG3. These are all the skid and landing items. You have 2 skid pipes. Put one this way. Mark the line. You have the 2 different front landing skid is the shorter one. The rear landing skid is the higher one. That way your helicopter sits at a 5-degree tilt, keeps the tail out of the ground. Some people like that, some people don't. You can always change them. Inside of bag number 700 NG1, which I'm opening right now, you have 4 rubber pieces, 4 end caps. Almost lost it. 4 washers and 4 tiny set screws. The end caps go onto the end of the skid tubes. The little set screws are used to hold the tubes in place through the little hole here. These can be used on the skid tube so that the helicopter doesn't slide left or right. If you're going to be doing auto rotation, it's not a good idea to use. However, some people do use them because it does keep the wear off of the actual plastic pieces and the skid tubes themselves. Next we have this bag, and it's bubble wrapped. And as you can see, it's the frame pieces. Go ahead and cut it open. Bag number is 700 NB14 and 173026022, which is also the number of the box. As you can see, one of the servos, elevator servo, has retaining pieces where the servo screws are going to, for mounting, screw in. And it's also on the throttle up in the front. And these 2 halves are the upper half of the frame. So when you put these together, basically, it's up in the upper half. The idea behind this is if something does happen and you do crash, you may jeopardize one of the lower frames and not have to take your entire electronic section apart, and it does work. It works very efficiently on the 700X helicopter. So those are the 4 frame pieces with the bottom plate. Let me go ahead and set these to the side, and we'll take a look at the actual frame stiffeners. You receive 2 frame stiffeners, 1 for each side of the helicopter. Take a look at the aluminum. Nicely machined, lines carved out. There's the frame pieces. Go ahead and clean this up. Last item is the actual canopy itself. Comes completely wrapped. And it does look very nice. Take some shots of it from the side. And from the top, see it's very narrow. We've already started the build video, so you'll have a detailed instructions of how to build this unit. We will be putting in either a YS91 or a YS96 motor, along with a couple other surprises, and the Beast Plus will be using that as the Flybarless unit. So this concludes the actual unboxing video of the 700XN combo, and hope you enjoyed the video. As always,